Well, tonight we're taking a closer look at the death of an American hero. On Saturday, ex-Navy SEAL Chris Kyle was shot and killed at a gun range about 200 miles north of Austin.
His friend, Chad Littlefield, was also killed. Police say a former Marine, Eddie Ray Routh, shot both men. Today, Routh's attorney says his client suffers from mental illness and was being treated at the Dallas VA hospital just days before the killings. Warren St. John says it's important everyone remember Routh is still a Marine.
My client served his country exactly like Mr. Kyle did. My client is still a U.S. Marine Reserve. He's still actually part of the U.S. military, and for some reason, because of his possible mental health issue, he was kind of pushed to the side where other folks might not have been. So that really bothers me quite a bit.
News that Routh suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder has shed a dark light on the many of others now dealing with it. And KXAN's Casey James has that story new at 10.
Self-medication, alcohol, divorce, multiple jobs.
After seeing some of the worst things this world can offer in Vietnam, Paul Pro has spent his entire life in search of happiness and balance.
PTSD is an injury, it's not an illness. And it's mostly internal. It's nothing to do with feeling violent towards other people. It's feeling violent towards yourself.
It makes me wonder, what did I do wrong? Have I done something wrong? Should this have occurred? Did I make a mistake? Did we make a mistake to allow this to occur? And so there's a lot of internal guilt that goes on with PTSD.
So when an incident like what happened in North Texas occurs, he says an automatic dark light is shed on those who suffer from combat stress.
There's a stigma attached to PTSD which really and truly hurts any active duty or veteran who has the issue. That's why they don't want to come forward.
And that's part of the problem. Men and women in uniform who fear their family, friends, and community will classify them as crazy.
The story isn't this tragedy happened. The story is this tragedy happened. We're not going to say because of PTSD, but that's the message to the general public. They hear, oh, the guy that killed these two people had PTSD, was released early, on and on. Those guys all need to be locked up. Some of this stuff scares us, to be honest with you.
Absolutely it does.
It's like, okay, when's somebody going to knock on my door and say, all you guys that are 100%, you go into a facility somewhere?
Both men still struggle, but have found balance in their lives, all thanks to Heroes Night Out in Cedar Park, a nonprofit organization that does things a little differently than the VA.
We don't ask for an ID. We don't ask for their last four. They just come in and they're immediately in a wide open room, and they're like, and somebody's saying, hey, come on in.
Treat the family the same as the veteran. Don't isolate him, because isolation is bad for the family and the veteran.
The two men now counsel other vets who are looking for their balance.
We can get in an hour and a half, and we have evidence of this, in an hour and a half with a veteran, what would take 6 months of intense therapy.
Now, both men believe the VA needs to focus on peer-to-peer counseling in the future, offering more programs where combat soldiers and vets can talk to one another. Someone who's been there, seen what they've seen, someone they can trust, which is the most significant issue with PTSD, trust. If more peer-to-peer programs were in place, they say the VA could focus more on those dealing with extreme issues. Leslie, Robert.
Thank you, Casey. We wanted to know more about post-traumatic stress disorder. The Department of Defense says 1 in 5 U.S. combat vets suffered or are suffering from PTSD. PTSD can be triggered in a moment by a memory, an image, a sound, even a smell. If untreated, PTSD does get better with time. In fact, it often can get worse.